This Week 16 matchup is an AFC West rematch as the Las Vegas Raiders look to get some revenge against Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. Both teams are coming off dominant victories in Week 15 as the Raiders finally did it. They finally got Brandon Staley fired after a 63-21 just absolute stomping of the Chargers on Thursday Night Football, while the Chiefs beat your Patriots here in Week 15. And so wanted to quickly throw it over to you here first, and because I know we've talked a lot about the Chiefs. The Chiefs are currently leading the AFC West, and I think if they win this game and they lock up the division, I need to go back and double check just all the tiebreakers, but I think they're far enough ahead. If they win, then they're in. So, what was your overall thoughts on how the Chiefs played, and what are some things the Raiders could potentially do to exploit this Chiefs team, both offensively and defensively, if they want to come out victorious in an upset win?
So one of the things that the Chiefs do that obviously I think everybody's aware of at this point is their receivers are just not very good. Travis Kelce, to me, has officially lost a step, and they're leading the league in drops by a very large margin. I believe they're at like 38 now, and just capitalizing on those mistakes, New England was able to create 3 turnovers yesterday, 2 of which came off of dropped or tipped passes that just should have been caught but got put up in the air.
The one, I forgot which one, it was earlier in the game, but the guy just ripped the ball out of the Chiefs' hand. I'm trying to remember who it was.
It was Marty Mapu for the Patriots, but I think it was not Noah Brown. That's the Texans guy. Watson, I believe.
Justin Watson.
Justin Watson. And then the other one, Kadarius Toney. It was a perfect pass by Mahomes. It hit him right in the hands, and then he just crossed his hand. I don't know. And then the ball just went up in the air and it went right to a Patriots defender.
I almost feel bad now for Tony a little bit. It's just gotten so it's turned into a meme.
It's kind of comedic.
You almost feel for the guy a little bit, but it's definitely something that then with this upcoming draft class, even with some of the other areas, I think maybe the Chiefs need to improve on, like offensive line. That first pick is for sure going to be a receiver. They will make sure that it is a receiver, and it's funny too. Just think about sometimes everybody has a drop pass and whatnot, but you can't. There's so many different impacts within the game that one play doesn't affect it. But you could go back and look at some of Tony's drops or some of the other receivers' drops. It's it has cost them games. It's absolutely.
Oh yeah, and then the bonehead mistake against the Bills lining up off sides has that. I mean, we saw what ended up happening on that play.
Yeah.
So, they are just not the same offensively, and I think you can really see it on Mahomes trying to lead this offense. He is extremely frustrated, and even when they were up by 10, and they threw that interception, he goes over the sideline. He doesn't talk to anybody. He just goes and sits by himself, and it's just yelling, just what the F are we doing? We can't even catch a dang ball, just yelling. And so it's really interesting to kind of see this offense really, really struggle with that issue in particular. With that being said, Rashee Rice is having a really good rookie season, and this defense is really good for the Chiefs. They get after the passer well, and if I think the Raiders are going to have a chance in this game, they're definitely going to have to protect Aiden O'Connell, because we were able to see what he was able to do when he was clean and in rhythm against the Chargers on Thursday night. It's just keeping him clean and in rhythm is going to be a lot harder against the Chiefs than it will be against the Chargers. So, because they didn't have Joey Bosa, and they don't really have another proven pass rusher, nor do they really have an interior guy like Chris Jones that could wreck games.
That's what I was going to say is the Raiders, for some reason, statistically have struggled running the ball all year, even though Josh Jacobs had a career year last year. But not every year is the same. But the Chiefs defense, I think that's the thing. If this was the Chiefs defense from 1 or 2 years ago, I'd be very curious to see where the Chiefs would be ranking at right now statistically. But it's this defense really that is keeping them in the division lead and in the playoff hunt, especially even too technically also with the number 1 seed still in the hunt, because the Ravens have a tough schedule coming up, going to San Francisco and then hosting Miami in Week 17. But the Chiefs have top 5 passing defense, which under 2,600 yards allowed, only 18 touchdowns, which is also a little better than average. Then rushing yards, 1,546 yards, only 9 rushing touchdowns allowed, which is definitely better than average on the league so far, 46 sacks. And that, to me, I think, is where the Raiders are going to have to try and figure out something, because if there is a weakness, this offensive line just hasn't played up to the same kind of capabilities as they did last year, which I think is also part of the running. The reason for some of the running woes, but also too, if you're you have Aiden O'Connell in the backfield, and I know he had a good game last week, but to your point though, it's not going to be the same defensive line that they played against the Chargers, who they gave him clean pockets. It seemed like everything will play, and then there's no secondary help as well, so he was able to pick apart that entire Charger secondary, and Raiders were able to do really whatever they want. They're not going to have that same luxury as well. When they played a couple weeks ago, the Raiders actually started off to a 14-0 lead, but then that was about it. Chiefs defense stepped up. Chiefs offense also stepped up and just took over the game. And there's nothing really that offense could do. And they're going to need a much more significant play from the offensive line and the defensive line, which Max Crosby always seems to have a good game. Well, every week, but also against the Chiefs as well. I think he likes going up against Patrick Mahomes. But they're going to need to pick up ways to just keep him off balance, and at the same time give Aiden O'Connell enough time to hit Devontae Adams, Kobe Myers, or Michael Mayer, Josh Jacobs out of the backfield if he is able to play. He was dealing with a knee injury last week, so he did get to play. But it's interesting too. You just look at this Raiders team, and we talked about the Chargers now. Head coaching spot seems like a desirable location. I also feel that the Raiders location is also a desirable one as well if they keep Devontae Adams. You have some weapons there. I think also, too, you're in a desirable spot living in Vegas.
Yeah.
The worst place to go and live. And I feel it's going to be unique on who they end up getting in the offseason. Potential some college coaches. I've always thought Michigan coach Jim Harbaugh. Maybe that's just he might fit that Raider mold, that kind of FU mentality. So maybe he will slide in there. It'll be very interesting to see where he ends up, but also who ends up in Las Vegas. So let's get on to our predictions here, though, for this Las Vegas Kansas City Week 16 game. But before we do that, if you have not already, be sure to go and like, subscribe, and ring the bell to get notified whenever we create new content. Right tonight, we have one final goal for the year, and that is get to 2,333 subscribers by the beginning of the new year. So it's less than 2 weeks away. Currently sitting at about 2204. So a little bit over 130-ish away. So need some help to get there if we're going to reach it. So help us, like, subscribe, join our growing community of football fanatics. And Ryan, who do you have winning this game and why?
I'm going with the Kansas City Chiefs. I just think they're the better team. I'm going to bet on Patrick Mahomes at home. And this defense really is, I think, the final selling piece for me. And just, I think they're going to be able to just get after Aiden O'Connell and really knock him off the spot in the pocket. And I think there's a clear difference on what the Chargers were not able to do and then what the Chiefs were able to do a few weeks prior, just in Aiden O'Connell's rhythm and just how he looked confidence-wise. He had no fear at all of any pass rush on Thursday night, and I think the Chiefs are going to change that.
Yeah. I'm also going to go with the Chiefs here as well. And love to see more consistency from the Chiefs receivers, because that honestly is just the weakness. I know Juwan Taylor hasn't had the best year, and the offensive line could improve for the Chiefs. But in general, though, you still have Patrick Mahomes, who's the king of improv. And If the receivers could just get some stickum on their hands and just play a little bit more consistent, I think that I think that they could do something special again in a mid-January run. I still like them against a lot of these teams, so we'll just have to go and see. It's going to be this AFC playoff is just going to be absolutely wild. It's going to be
Yeah.
so wild. Any of these teams, I even think potentially the 7th seed, you could potentially see some upsets here as well. Because I think if Miami ends up winning the division, I think they're vulnerable. Kansas City's vulnerable, and then whoever wins the AFC South is definitely going to be vulnerable. I mean, it's going to be Jags, Colts, and Texans all now have the same record. So I think the Colts and Texans play in Week 18.
Yeah,
so that's going to be kind of a big deal. So
yeah,
we'll have to see here, but I'm going to go with Kansas City in this one.
Yeah. No, it's going to be a good one. These division matchups are always really, really good. So we're both taking the Chiefs. Let's go ahead and wrap this up here. If you guys have not already, please go ahead and like and subscribe and help Tyler and I reach that goal of getting to 2,333 subscribers. And while you're down there, leave a comment on who you think is going to come out ahead, the Las Vegas Raiders or the Kansas City Chiefs. Other than that, we will see you guys next time.